that it's alright. Yes, sir, it's alright. It's alright. Have a good time, 'cause it's alright. Whoa.
Things about my being in this seat of the city council was that I was old enough to know when 2nd Street was the street for African Americans. I can remember when people who lived 2 and 3 blocks away would dress up so they could come down on 2nd Street and party. And of course, I grew up in Edwards Addition, but my church was on the corner of 2nd and Phillips, and I had to ride the bus to go to my church activities, and I would just, my nose would be pressing the windows of the bus because, you know, at that time we had Tinker Air Force Base, we had Fort Sill Army Base, and then we had an Army contingent down in Norman, and there wasn't any place for African American soldiers to go, and so they would bring them to Deep Deuce, and it was just so alive and thriving, and people were having so much fun, and my nose would be on that window and just asking God to hurry up and let me get grown so I could go to 2nd Street. We called it 2nd Street at the time. Well, as many areas do in cities, it became a place for derelicts. The buildings were no longer occupied. It was just really, really run down in that bit. But I knew that the streets are always going to be there. We had a fun thing for me was we have this country and western singer, Vince Gill, who came to town, and I'm telling you, oh my goodness, he was just so handsome. And so I got his autograph, and they put a great big sign up, "Welcome to Oklahoma City, home of Vince Gill." Well, just right along that time, excuse me, Joe Carter had been the catalyst for the World Series when he was playing for the Toronto Blue Jays. So I had him to put a sign up, "Welcome to Oklahoma City, home of Joe Carter." And they really did. I mean, I never had any problems. As a result of that, in the whole Bricktown area that people are talking about now, empty warehouse buildings, you didn't see people in that area. I was a member of the board of directors for the YWCA at the time. And the only thing that was in Bricktown at that time was our haunted house that we had down there once a year. That's how we raised funds. But anyway, we named a street, which was Styles, really, part of the street for Joe Carter to commemorate his helping to win the World Series, and then ultimately named the area from Northeast 4th Street down to Main, Russell M. Perry Avenue. He had to have that M in there because he said, he always called me Council Lady. He said, "Council Lady, don't just put Russell Perry down there because there's another Russell Perry in town, and he acts real bad, and I don't want that." So anyway, we got that done, and then
Colbert, the old Colbert. I've been here 52 years now. Okay. Elma Parks lived across the street. Mrs. Webb lived across the street. Mrs. Moore lived next door. Mr. Martin lived 2 doors down. Mrs. Child lived 2 doors down. I mean, farther down. And Mrs. And you know, I've forgotten these other people's names.
Wilson's and Pop.
Yeah, Wilson's, Mr. Wilson, Miss Pop. All those people are dead and gone. That's one of the things. You have to maintain a neighborhood just like you do anything else to keep it up. And we've tried to do that. We've tried to do that. This place here was already here. This place, these homes was built here in 51, I think, in 1950. But that's where most of your black people live, in that neighborhood, 4th Street, 2nd Street, and back up the 8th Street. That's where the blacks lived at that time, 55, 50, 60 years ago. So we've made some progress since then. 5 years plus 2 years in the military.
Okay. And what did you do at Tinker?
I was an expediter, material expediter at the time I retired.
What is that?
That's picking material up from one place, carrying it to a different place for airplanes and different things.
Okay. Okay.
I was an expediter for B-52 at that time.